folks, I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily TA wrap. Well, we take a look at these markets from a neoclassical perspective and ask ourselves what happened today and what does it tell us about tomorrow. I do the show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the beautiful Rocky Mountains, and it is nice to be back and see these Rocky Mountains. I've been off for a few days, a little bit of rest. It's been a long time since I had a break, so it's always good to get away for a little while, and then of course nice to come back. And what I come back to a market that simply doesn't want to quit. It's kind of been the same story for a long time. Every time you think this market can't do it again, it just simply flips around and does it again. We've seen it all throughout this year, day in, day out. Just continues to power ahead, especially in the technology sector. As far as the numbers, Dow Jones was up 62, 15,191 and 3/4. S&P's up 13.5, about 1695. Composite 46.5 higher, 38.17, 38.18. Index 34, almost 35 higher, 32.53 was the close there, and the Russell was the powerhouse, 1.25% higher, 13.64. New all-time highs, 10.87.42. Big moves there, big moves in gold. Gold down about 35 bucks today, down again after hours. Actually shows it up after hours, so I guess we got a bounce in here somewhere. Silver actually was down too, a pretty good clip, but not as bad. The dollar shook off some early losses after the government shut down, but I think most of that stuff's already priced in there. Basically, commodities were weak across the board. Equities were strong across the board, both here, abroad, and Europe and Asia. So another big win on the equities, and it's been that way all year, as you know. And how much longer can it go? That's anybody's guess. Let's take a look. Now, I was going for, I didn't do a show Thursday, did a late night show Wednesday before I took off. So the last time we had a chance to look at this was Wednesday. So let's pull back and kind of look at where we were at. Wednesday we were trying to bounce, I believe. That was the 26th. That was Thursday. So Wednesday we came down. Thursday we got that little bounce. And I don't remember, but I believe we were thinking it would try to bounce there. It tried. It didn't get very far. Then we started taking it right back away. No, it was Wednesday we got the bounce. Thursday we came down. And then Friday, I'm getting mixed up here, so let me get the days right. That's Friday, Thursday, Wednesday was the bounce. So Friday was a tough day in that this market opened lower, right, gap lower, didn't, okay, so now it finally hit me. I can't figure out why these numbers don't make sense. Okay, because today's Tuesday. So you can see I'm a little rusty, so let's start all over again. All right, so Tuesday is today, right? The big bounce today. Let's go back one more time. So Friday was here, Thursday there, Wednesday, the last time I did a show was the 25th. Little bounce on Thursday, sold down some on Friday, nothing major. Gap down on Monday, right? And gap down pretty hard all across all the indexes, but they immediately bought the gap. No hesitation whatsoever. If we go back and if I pull up the SPX here so that I can put it on 2 days, and let's put it on 30 minutes, and you go back and look at the last 2 days, you can see, actually we need 3, I'll put it on 5 so I can see the gap. So we gap down, straight down. That was the low, right on the gap. Went up, came back and tried to test into the day, and then of course today was a straight shot higher and then a big strong close at the end of the day. But when you're looking at Thursday itself, I mean, Monday itself, you can see the big gap down, never got anywhere. Tried to get back up to close the gap, got right up to the gap. Now, that's one of the weaker indexes. If you go over to something like the IWM and you look at that gap, you gap down hard, that's the low of the day, and you actually climb back into positive territory by the end of the day. Folks, this kind of action is just reeking of buyers, the sellers disappearing at lower prices, buyers wanting to come in and buy it. If we look at the volumes associated with this guy, and now let's go back to a daily view of it. If we look at the volumes, when we came down on the gap down, right, you're coming back into August 15th. You're also coming into this breakout over this swing point high, right? That was the first high that got broke on the way back up. So that breakout back there, it's trying to get back into it. It's coming into support. Volume on the largest bar down there was September 10th bar, 36.9. We did 33 into that. All right, so you're coming into support and you don't have as much volume, and you've already had a nice move down. What does it do? It flips around, holds, even on the weakest two indexes, held, and came off those lows and held them. And then today, of course, gap up the other way on the government shutdown. The government shutdown, that was already discounted. It was discounted to a great degree yesterday, and as you saw, they bought it. And so what do they do today? They just carry that forward. Now let's look at the volumes today and what we're coming back into, because that's what you have to start looking at now. So now we come back into the first three resistance zones and just blow right through almost all of them. The big test on the way back is going to be the breakout bar. The bottom of it is about 1700. We closed today about 1695, so you got about a 5-point move to try to get into that tomorrow. That swing point high, remember here on August 7th, swing point high, that was the one that we did the retest regen, failed. Then we went into the next one, failed underneath it too, closed just underneath it, I believe, on Monday. That was 1682 was the low, 1681 was the close, so just underneath it. So another quote-unquote failure. This index is really struggling, and the primary culprit is you have weak financials, and you've had some other weak sectors too, your XLP, some of the others, but the financials have really behaved differently than they have for 2 years now. If that behavior continues, it's going to be an issue, and we'll look at that when we get to the sectors. Now if I broaden this out, because I didn't do a weekly show, if I broaden this out and look at the weekly, that swing point high, and this is the S&P weekly, 1709.67. We go over it, close over it, right? Get your breakout. Then you come back and you do an immediate retest regen off the weekly. The low on the weekly, 1681.86. We closed 1691, tested the bottom, almost the bottom, 1687. Yesterday we did test the bottom on the weekly, 1674. So we went under it and we're back over it. Now we only got 1 day into it. We did 65 today. That bar has 169. If we do 65 times 4, it gets us up to about 260. Divide it, actually, because it's the first day, we can just multiply it out. It's going to be about 300. 300 coming back into the retest regen, right? No contest. It's a loss, right? It's not good. But the breakout bar, 185. Yeah, so if the volume continues at this pace the rest of the week, you're coming down with way too much volume on your retest regen on the weekly, and that's going to be problematic. So far S&P, nice bounce, can bounce farther. Could be problematic as we go forward though, when we look at it on the weekly. Here's the Dow. The Dow, just an inside day, volume lighter. There's really nothing here except for when we left, it was up in this area trying to make a bounce. Protrudes farther down, 1508.6. The bottom here was 1509.4. So you got under this bar. That one had 1.2. We did 1.2. So almost the same amount of volume. So it can actually get back there and test again. Let's see on the weekly now. On the weekly, it tested the top but failed, but had higher volume. Which says it can try to get all the way back up there on the weakest index. Okay. And today, let me see, we tested down with 2, and we're coming into the bottom of this swing point high. And that support zone, it's really off of this bar. That bar's got 7. So again, just like on the SPX, we're hitting it with too much volume. So even though there's kind of this protruding on the Dow, this protruding, spike up on all that volume 2 weeks back, so far this week we're coming down. So to me, one of the most important things this week is going to be is how does the volume act as this week plays out, because it's a shortened week. It's not a shortened week. It's a shortened week for me. Oh my goodness. I am out of it, folks. Okay, so it's actually 2 days, right? That kind of changes things. Let me go back and look at this one more time. This is probably the most embarrassing show I've done in a long time. I can't remember anything. That's how screwed up you get when you take a vacation. So that's 2, so that's 1. Okay, I want to go back and look at the S&P. So the Dow isn't going to have the volume. Let me look at the S&Ps. So that's 65. That's roughly 32 5 times. Gets me about 150, and we're testing this one. Yeah, it's lighter volume. All right. So lighter volume on the test on the weekly. That looks good. That changes the whole picture. All right, so that looks better. So even though we could potentially, trade sideways here. As a matter of fact, I think we may. Volumes actually look okay on the weekly, and on the daily, this little bounce is okay. The real test will be these 5 points higher tomorrow. How does it deal with it when it comes back up in here? All right. So now that I think I've figured out what the structure looks like in terms of what day of the week it is and how many days we've traded, let's go to the strong guys. All right, so the NASDAQ. Okay, so the NASDAQ gets over the high today. It doesn't have the volume, so it's going to be a suspect breakout. You got 27. You did 1.8, but you're over it, and it's gonna. This is a breakout. It's another breakout. It's only on this time frame. Remember, here we're just stretching higher. We have ABCDs going, and I haven't looked at them since I left, so I'm not sure what the projections were. I'm not going to try to pull it up now. I'll just look at them real quick. So it's 33, roughly 390 or so, plus that's 38, 39.60 or so, and we're at 38.17. So this still can carry quite a bit. So nothing to stop it on the weekly yet. And the daily's got a breakout now. So what you want to see, if you're bullish, is you want to see this hold this breakout. If anything, come back, do a retest, regen, and regenerate higher. And you may get a fast, when you get a suspect breakout, odds are much better that you'll get a fast retest, regen, and try to regenerate. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this maybe carry a little bit tomorrow and then come back and do a retest. Let's look at the NDX. Is it doing the same thing? I think it got over the highs and closed over it right at the end of the day. They spiked it. There was a lot of volume came in the day. There was almost none most of the day. 32.48, 32.53. Yeah, so you got a suspect breakout here, exactly the same case. And you could get a fast retest regen here as well. And on the weekly, ABCD's up, nothing, just like the Dow. I mean the broader market. So let me go to the Russell, because the Russell breaks out as well today. So all your OTCs break out, and the Russell. Now the Russell isn't going to have a swing point high because we never got 6 bars. Right, but you did consolidate for a good 2 weeks here before breaking out. And volume's not bad going over the highs. So the Russell looks like it can carry too. So your strongest indexes look like they can carry. Your weakest indexes, forgetting the Dow, because the Dow's just an inside day, didn't tell us anything. SPX looks like it can try to get up about 5 more points, and then we'll see what it wants to do. So to me, that's really the story tomorrow, is what do the S&Ps do as they come back into that big bar. Let's see if we can see anything on the sectors here. And not to give excuses, but I got in very late last night, stayed up too late, and didn't take a rest today, getting up early, so I'm about beat as it is. It's going to be a good night rest tonight. Here's the IYT coming back up the top of resistance zone, doesn't have the volume. That one's going to struggle trying to get back over this high. Now, remember, this one did a retest regen on the daily, all the way back to the low, into the support zone, held, didn't have the volume to break it down. Now you're coming back up, you're going to try to break back over your swing point high. Of course, if you can do that, you're going to set up a nice structure back to the upside. And on the weekly, it was also a retest regen on the weekly, off this swing point high, immediate comeback, retest, no volume to speak of. So far it looks positive. Tomorrow, just like we need to watch the SPX, IYT will be a sector to watch to see if it can get over that swing point high bar that it retested and trying to regenerate off of. SMHs, so semis. The semis have kind of picked up and continue to power up. Now they've set up a decent ABCD structure on the way up if they can get higher. And it's interesting it came back with as much volume as it did. 1.5, 1.6. But yet it held. And part of the reason it held was what else it was coming into here. 39.23. It got to 39.37. You got some huge volume there supporting it. This is a hard read. I don't know if this one's middle of the road. It can go either way tomorrow. That one doesn't tell me anything. So let me look at the next one. So let's go to basic materials. And as we know, the metals got hammered, commodities got hammered. This actually held up pretty well despite that. I mean, you can see it didn't get much of a bump like some of them, but it held up. So just like the SPX, I suspect we're going to see a bunch of large volume, wide price spread type candles on the way back. And how it comes into those and deals with them is going to be what sets up either another push up or push back down. You've got ABCD structures up and down, and most of them don't look like they're done. This one's not done either way, it looks like. They got pretty close here. 43.78. It's $1.60. It's 41.20. Almost got to it. So you got a bearish ABCD, A point, B point, C point, in effect still, and you've got a bullish ABCD the other way. Neither one finished. So you can see the conflicting nature of the way these things are trading. Let's see what this one's going to have the same thing, and it has the same structure. So bullish ABCDs that are longer in nature, shorter term ones down, not suspect, but ABCD downs, bearish ones, and they've got huge bars that they have to go back into. So they could all get a little bit more bounce, and just like the SPX, they're going to all have to try to get over. That was the XLE. They're going to have to try to get over that zone now that's been created. Now here's the XLF. This has not been favorable to the bulls for quite a while. You made a higher high You couldn't get over it on the weekly, right? Now you're coming back down. And although you're catching a bounce right now, if it continues to sell back down, if the market does, and this makes new lows, you're going to have even more of a bearish structure, if you will, starting to take place in one of the important sectors that is out there. Now, in terms of how it acted, this one can get up. There's two bars on this one. You've got the top of this bar that will probably print tomorrow, and then you've got the bottom of the high. And both of those will be important and difficult to get back through. So, and this is not trading particularly well. It did disqualify an ABCD down today. That could reassert, but right now it's back over the C point, the B point. And you had an ABCD up that didn't finish. So they're all the same. They've all got short-term bearish ABCDs down, big bars that they have to go back into, and bullish ABCD structures that never finished. XLI coming back into it already. This one's stronger than the others. So if one of the things you want to do when you're watching the market and you're trying to decide what's being told, you want to look to the strongest ones to see if they can actually show more strength or not. And then you want to look to the weakest ones and see if they show more weakness or not. This one will try to get into and over this bar tomorrow. 46.95 is the high. If it does, that bodes well for the market. That's the XLI. XLK, tech sector's been strong, but this one doesn't look nearly as good. So that tells me that the power that's taking place in the tech sector is extremely concentrated in some large names. Some names like Facebook and Tesla and some of these others that have just had huge runs. I don't like the way this chart looks. It's going to come, it tested into this bar today and failed. That was the breakout bar, the bottom of it, 32.39. You test into it, you don't have as much volume, you fail. That doesn't look particularly well. XLP, I don't think these ever caught a bid. Remember, they made the huge run. They go all the way to the top of the range, and now they're stuck down here. I don't see anything valuable there. XLU, same thing. Can't get any lift. Let me look at XLV. Now, the XLV had been one of the stronger ones, and it got a nice bounce today. Wow, weird. Got big volume yesterday on the way down, and never really reversed like the rest of the market, but did today. Okay, so the big test here, 51.20 and 51.52. It closed 51.12. It's going to get its test right away. So just quickly looking at all these, I'm not going to go through any more because y'all got a lot of questions. Let me try to hit some of those. It looks mixed to me. I don't know that this market's going to be able to make the run again. We've seen it do it so many times, I wouldn't say it can't. But it's mixed enough to me to make me think that it's going to struggle. Let me try to hit a few of your questions here. So eBay. So the question on eBay is what? That intermediate term outlook for a buy point. Let's see what eBay looks like. Okay, so on the weekly, it's just range trading, and you really don't have any volume coming back up. I wouldn't mess with it. The only way you mess with this is you break all these swing point highs and take off. So if you can start breaking swing point highs, that'd feel different, but until it does, it's got to prove itself. And for me, that means you just got a big range trade going from 50 to 58, 57 and a half. Until it breaks the range, one side or the other, you just got to stand back and wait. If you want to be bullish, which is not a bad thing to be on this stock, let it come back again. If it doesn't break out, let it come back again to a support zone and buy it, right? Because then you don't have much to risk. You can't buy it up here though. So you either got to wait for the breakout or wait for another retrace and buy the retrace. Z, what does Z look like? Z is Zillow. Alright, I'll just stay on the weekly to start with. This looks to be topping the way it's trading. Now, if I look at the monthly, it actually did an over-under on the monthly after an extended run. And there was an ABCD structure, so it actually could push again. And then if we go to the daily, yeah, you left volume down here. I don't know what that was, but you left volume at the bottom. It's going to go test that. 79, right at 80 bucks. So you want to see the test of that. It almost got there today. But again, when I look at the weekly, that looks like it's very topping. Looks to be topping, so I wouldn't be messing with it. Another one here, ABBV. I think we talked about this one, and it didn't quite get to where we were trying to get to, was it? I think we were looking at somewhere under 4. Oh no, we wanted it to test this bar. That's what we were looking for. 4402, 4403. Missed it by a penny, huh? And now it's back the other way. Okay, so just like the rest of the indexes, how does it deal with this bar now? The bottom is 45.86. It traded as high as 45.90 today, so it went back into it, closed underneath it, didn't have the volume. If it gets into this bar and can hold into it, then you could get a run back to the top. Right now it looks like it's going to fail here and come back down again and test again. Let's look at this on the weekly one more time. Yeah, it's just consolidating after a nice big run off the bottom. Not so much the bottom, just where it started in terms of the IPO. So you just got a nice big consolidation starting to take place, or continuing to take place. And what volume you see is strength, so you don't want to short it. You want to be looking to the long side, which is what you're trying to do. I'd make it get into this bar if I was going to put any money on it. Ideally, you'd like to catch it back down here somewhere. Okay, so I didn't get to go through the others. Let me pop over for just a second. We had on the OX markets the bonds trying to push higher the last couple weeks, I guess it's been, and then they sold off, and today sold off some more. I would expect bonds are going to build a base, which means you sell towards the top end, you buy towards the bottom end, if you want to trade it that way. I would think this is going to try to pull back some more. So that's what bonds look like. But let's quickly go over to gold. Now gold was weak all day, really couldn't get anything going, closed down underneath support. But what's interesting is when I look at silver, silver actually held and looked better. So it makes me think that the gold market's going to hold here and try to work higher again. And if I quickly look at, and I'm not going to try to type it in, I'll just pop it in here. If I look at the GDX, it actually traded pretty nicely today given what was happening. So looks to me like gold is going to try to find another bottom here and try to work its way back higher. Of course, it's in deep doo-doo right now, down 40 bucks on the day, and back underneath these lows. If I go back to gold, back underneath these lows, and people are thinking, oh my God, we're going to the bottom again. And it may, but it looks to me like it's going to try to hold the way it traded, and especially given silver. All right, I'm running out of time here. I'm not bearish by any means. Just to try to focus on where my thoughts are. It's just that I'm not overly bullish either. You've got a lot of stuff in front of us. I think the markets are going to continue to be whippy and continue to struggle on both sides. They're going to struggle extremely hard to go down, and which we saw again today. There's just too much money willing to come in here and buy these things on any dip. Part of that's performance anxiety. Part of it is thinking earnings are going to be good. Part of it is other things. But then you got all the headline stuff, the news-driven stuff that's just keeping it down here. And I don't see that going away yet. And that's going to make it very tough to get this market up and over and keep going. You're up and over on the OTCs. Now let's see if they can stretch higher. They're going to need some follow-through on the SPX. That will be the test tomorrow. We'll see where it takes us. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Sorry that I got so wrapped up in my vacation I couldn't remember where I was. But, you know, maybe by tomorrow I'll be back in a sane state, ripping through this stuff like I usually do. Folks, have yourself a great night, and I appreciate you coming back to visit. And tell a friend, tell two. As always, I'm L.A. Little. This is and was your Daily TA Wrap. Have a great night, and I'll see you next time. Good night, folks.